This is a different video because in this video, I want to take some time to really try to flush out what I'm learning for you and for myself, how the government controls the money supply and what that means for you and how they control you and how that affects your family and your family's family and your children's children. Because what I'm learning lately is this like this thing where this is the perhaps the biggest scam in history, and we're just falling hook, line, and sinker for it, and that is the United States dollar. United States dollar is funny money, is monopoly money, is just as good as this stack of post-its that I could pay anyone here. And in this video, I'm going to try to line that out simply, effectively, that you could kind of, you and I could like lizard brain understand this thing. Because I think it's important, because if you're investing in Bitcoin and you're investing in crypto, crypto is the way out, in my opinion. Crypto to me, and more specifically Bitcoin, but I would say crypto in general. And we could outline the different arguments for that. I'd say Bitcoin specifically, but crypto in general, rather, is that it's the way out of it. It's the way of the future. And I'm American. I'm in the United States. I'm proud of this country. However, you could be proud of something and not proud of some of the ways they do the things. Like I love the ideals of it, but somehow in the evolution of the United States, we have lost the ideals, that it's the principles, the founding principles that we've set upon, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And instead we've replaced that with slavery, indebtedness, and the biggest scam for fake happiness. And so I want to talk about the biggest scam. And before I do that, we have to kind of outline something called fractional reserve banking. And it's the way money it's created, okay? So if someone asks you, do you know how money's created? This is it, fractional reserve banking. I have another video that goes in depth on this, but I want to just kind of outline it very simply, okay? So pretend you're right here, that's you, and this is me, okay? And you want to buy my car. Okay, and I've used this before, but this is just the easiest thing. And you give me money for this car, and you own this car, and you say, I want to only own it on Saturdays, okay? Saturdays. I want to only drive on Saturdays. The other days of the week, you keep it in your garage, okay? So I'm saying, oh, okay, I have a great idea. What if I sell it also on Sundays and Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays? You own it on Saturdays, but I'm going to sell it to another person here, 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 here on these other days. And what happens is they all pay me that same amount of money. Say it's like, let's say it's $1,000 for simple math. Okay, so this creates an impossible reality, okay? Because every one of these guys owns 100% of the car. And this is different from 1/7 of the car. 7 people owning 1/7. This is not it. This is not it, okay? How can I sell 100% of the car 7 times? I just created 7 cars, okay? Like this person owns the car and this person owns the car. It's impossible. It doesn't make sense. And this is essentially just replace this with the dollar bill, okay? That's just the dollar bill. And now we've created all these little dollar bills, and that's how fractional reserve banking works. It's created 95% of the total money supply. That's how it's created. It's done in the commercial banks. If you're wondering how the other 5% of it is done, it's the Fed. They just really just write the check out. They print the check for some bonds from the United States government, okay? And they give it to the United States. That's how it goes. It's really, there's a simple video on my channel. Just I use this. Please look into it. I'll link it in the description. But that's how the money supply is created. Now, why is this a problem? Because it's funny money. Would it be a problem if I sold you that car in that situation? Of course it would, because you don't really own it. Because if it comes time for a bank run, when all 7 of those people want to go and withdraw that car from my garage, we got a big problem. And if there's ever a bank run, we got a big problem, okay? And you don't think a bank run would happen, but just ask Ukraine that, and of course, if you're in the United States, you're like, oh, Aaron, that's impossible. Look, I thought a lot of things were impossible before 2020. Okay, it would be if someone said in 2019 it's impossible for the whole world to shut down. Impossible. Okay. It's impossible for the Canadian government to shut down a bunch of truckers and take their money and take anyone who donates to them. Okay. It's impossible. Like, to me, things are really weird right now. And I want what's mine. That's all I want. I don't want what's anyone else's. I want what's mine. And that clearly is a big problem. Now, this same topic was brought up on a podcast that I really like. It's called the Pomp Show or Pompcast by Anthony Pompliano, and he asked this question of Dan Held, another Bitcoin maxi, and these are Bitcoin maxis, and I consider myself, semi Bitcoin maxi, more Bitcoin maxi than anything else. But here's what he says about the biggest scam in the world.
Is it the greatest scam? Is the entire monetary manipulation of the economy over the last 50 years, is it the greatest scam that we will live through?
Absolutely. I think that, money is a representation of energy and time. Like, you and I spend lots of time and energy to go make money, same with everyone else out in the world. The government changing, printing more and just moving it as they see fit to the tune of tens of trillions. This isn't just like a minor thing, minor corruption or something where like a local mayor does something kind of shady, or there's a weird business contract between a state and a company. This is the manipulation of all money in the world at a scale that didn't really exist before. So yeah, I would say this is one of the greatest scams of all time.
Yeah, so here's what he's saying. He's saying basically two things. One, I thought it was brilliant. One is a manipulation of time and energy, our manipulation of time and energy. And two, it's the manipulation of all money in the world. Okay, so just if you didn't know that the United States owns the U.S. dollar, and that U.S. dollar is being exported. Debt is being exported out to everyone in the form of bonds or whatever. And all their money starts in the United States, closest to the money printer, and gets pushed out to China, to Saudi Arabia, to Venezuela, to all everyone's currency is somehow linked, somehow pegged to the United States dollar. And we could go into petrodollar and all that kind of stuff. But and we might just touch on it a little bit. But essentially, when the United States inflates their currency, everything else inflates tenfold. Well, maybe not tenfold. That's an exaggeration, but you know what I'm saying. Like it inflates heavier, more drastically. Why? Because the inflation starts here, but it gets exported and gets worse outside. That's what happens here. It's called the dollar milkshake theory. You go into that. That's not the scope of this video, but it's very fascinating stuff to research. Maybe I'll break some of that down in the future anyway. But this is what I thought was interesting as well. I looked up some articles on what is happening out there in the world, and the European Union, the EU, is considering not dabbling as much as in the dollar as much anymore, and Saudi Arabia is paying for the Chinese is paying for Saudi Arabian oil in their native country, in the yuan. So they're looking for the petro yuan. Okay, so they're avoiding the dollar altogether, and this is what happens when you steal money for too long. People start looking for an alternative. People start looking for a way out. Now, for me, this is a big problem, because what they're doing is they're essentially pushing out this funny money out to everyone in the world. Why? Because we don't have, at least our government doesn't have a good way, an accurate way to rein in their spending. This last stimulus bill last year, okay, I asked the question, hey, is this stimulus money wasteful spending? And let me show you some of the stuff that I found, okay? So this was passed with a unanimous decision last year, and last year we knew a lot less than we know this year, and we were a lot more scared last year, so that's fine. But you should know that there's this article talks primarily about two types of bills. It's the Pelosi bill that they wrote up, and then what the Senate passed, or what the Senate approved. And so $25 million in the Senate bill went to the John F. Kennedy Center for Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. during the past 10 years. The center received $68.3 million in federal grants from 2010 to 2019. So the assets have Pelosi bill earmarked $35 million for the John F. Kennedy Center for Performing Arts. This is for an emergency bill for COVID relief for the United States, and they're earmarking $35 million to the John F. Kennedy Space Performing Arts Center. $25 million got passed. Okay, so why? You tell me why they're getting $25 million for a center for performing arts. There's no plays happening, right? That's ridiculous. $75 million, okay, by the Senate bill for public broadcasting. This is the National Public Radio. This is ridiculous. So the National Public Radio gets 75 million to bail it out. And then 1.2 million of the Pelosi bill requires airlines to purchase expensive renewable jet fuel. So for like greenhouse emissions. Okay. This is some crazy stuff here. 500 million in the Pelosi bill, Institute of Museum and Library Services. Okay, this is crazy. 600 million to the bill of the Pelosi bill to the National Endowment of Arts and Humanities. Okay, so literally we're teaching about feelings and gender studies and you know, museum and library services. Why does a librarian need $500 million? This is no one's even going to the library at this time. This was last year, but I just want to bring this up. Look at this: 88 million for the Peace Corps evacuating volunteers from United States and U.S. direct hires from overseas. Okay, they did that, but the agency just fired all of their volunteering workers in 61 countries on March 15th. So the Pelosi bill allocated 90 million. So why are they getting money? And this statement kind of makes it seem like they fired the people already. They just fired them. They don't have to or they didn't have to evacuate anyone. So here's my problem, right? And you could do more of that research, but my problem is that we have a government trying to spend away. They just make these campaign promises. They make these virtue signaling, or they whatever. They want to spend whatever money they want, but where are they getting that money? They're getting that from you and me. Why? Because they're inflating the price, or they're inflating the money supply, and that affects our time and energy. Okay? How does that affect our time and energy? And this is the real evil. This is the real egregious evil that I see. This becomes slavery. Because when you and I work, and we exert our time, 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, and our energy, our creative energy, our back-breaking, laborious energy, time away from our families, time away from our friends, and way of what brings us happiness, and we direct that into our work, which is something that's sacred. Like, you know, like working is a good thing for the human soul, in my opinion. But to create and to you know, take all this creative energy that we have and pour it into something, and then to say, okay, you know, I'm our boss or the owner or whatever, the people who control the money say, you're not gonna be able to afford more as much as you have been in the past. Instead, I'm gonna pay you less. Essentially, that's what's happening. I'm gonna pay you less because I find myself in a bind. I made these campaign promises. I have this friend in the museum that needs some extra money. I'm trying to study the humanities. You know, like that to me is the wasteful spending. That to me is someone up there who is wanting to spend whatever they want, but they can't get it because there's no money. So they create the money, and it doesn't take it directly from you, but it takes it indirectly from us by just deflating the value of the whole currency system. This is like some deep stuff. This becomes slavery, and I'll tell you why it's slavery. Because we can't say no. You can't. There's nothing you can do about it. What are you gonna do? You can't vote these people out. Really, you can't. Didn't Pelosi been there for 1 million years? You know, it's like, what are you talking about? So, and even if you voted on someone else's, the whole matrix is already designed to kind of sustain itself, and it's like an alcoholic, right? If we start printing money, it's like, you know, okay, so let me. It's an alcoholic, a recovering alcoholic. Okay, a recovering alcoholic cannot have one drop of alcohol. Otherwise, they're not going to stop. They just keep doing, and that's the same way as the money supply. We can't print one funny dollar. We can't do it, because if we print one, it's never enough, and that's the same thing. That's the situation we have here. It's never enough. It's never going to be enough, and this is just going to continue. So what's yours and my option? We can't say no. The whole world operates on the dollar, at least right now. The Chinese are trying to make it the yuan, but it's just going to be the same problem, different monster. Bitcoin. It's looking pretty tasty right now. That's where I'm going into. Anyway, if you like the thoughts in this video, drop a comment down below. I'm really interested in this type of stuff. I know this is like a lot different from what I'm doing, but this is just where my head's at right now. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.